when people go back to quote unquote real life and they sort of forget what happened in that mountaintop experience, they can look at the visual that was created with their input during the event and go, oh right, I remember we talked about this and then this happened and that person, and they recall not only the content but the emotion and the feeling and the inspiration of that experience, even if it was months ago.
Welcome to the Business Ownership Podcast, brought to you by Awareness Strategies, helping you navigate the waters between entrepreneurship and ownership. Hey there, peeps. This is Michelle Nedelec, and I'm super glad that you're here with us today because I'm here with my most amazing guest, Lisa. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, great to see you.
Awesome. So give everybody the highlight of who you are and what you do for business.
So as you can see behind me, this is one of
they
the things
probably
I do.
can't. I'm just going to warn you, most of them are in podcast.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Nobody
you got to
can
explain
see
that
this.
one.
So I'm you're really feeling FOMO now. So anybody who can see my background would be able to see that there is cartoons and graphics and doodles and things behind me, because I do quite a bit of something called graphic recording or graphic facilitation in my business. What I do is I work with mostly companies in tech or innovation or some kind of product development, whether they're small or large, to help them get more clarity in their messaging and in their processes and get more buy-in. And so one of the ways I do that is with drawings that help people collaborate and get on the same page so that they can better develop their products and their strategies, and also get more buy-in from other people that might need to support them.
Super fun. So we will get into the ins and outs of how you do that in a minute, but let's back up the bus a little bit. How did you get into, especially drawing out those characteristics as an industry?
Yeah, so my company, I named my company Drawing Out Your Genius, with the double meaning of it's not just drawing, but it's also bringing out the genius of your brand, your people, your content and things like that. Because what I like to do is extract and distill the meaning and the main idea, especially when you're working with some sort of an industry or a process that might be a little technical or might be a little complex or maybe a little bit dry and boring, where there needs to be some simplification. So I got into it because I started out as a child wanting to be a cartoonist. I worshiped Charles Schulz. The first thing I ever bought with my own money was a little book of Snoopy cartoons. I still have it on my desk. It cost 40 cents. So I'm kind of outing myself in terms of my age, but
not until you give the actual value of that.
yeah, a little pocketbook. I have hundreds of them now, but that was my first thing. And my folks, saw my interest in storytelling with visuals and also with words, but they were worried about my going into a career that relied mostly on visual arts. So they encouraged me, or rather forced me, to take a quote unquote real job, which is how I ended up in advertising for about 25 years. So I worked in major ad agencies, both on Madison Avenue and in Europe, on brands like IBM, Hanes, Unilever, and many other brands you would have heard of. In fact, anybody who's old enough to remember "Wait till we get our hands on you" as a jingle from the 1990s, that I wrote that. So I'd like to say I changed your underwear, because we did. It's before we did that campaign, Hanes was known as kind of a generic 3-to-a-pack white underwear kind of product, and we turned it into more of a fashion, casual fashion that you enjoy wearing, rather than something that you just have to wear because everybody has to wear underwear. So that's really how I got into this. And I've always, even though I was a copywriter when I was in advertising, not an art director. I'm not sure how many people know this, but in advertising agencies, traditionally you have teams of a copywriter and an art director who come up with these ideas together. And I was the copywriter side of the duo, but I always drew cartoons because that was what I loved. And so I often used drawings to help explain my ideas to my boss or to my partner or to the client. And that never really stopped. And even after I became a freelancer and came back to the United States from Paris, where I spent about 12 years, I started working with more entrepreneurs who were just starting their businesses, and we used a lot of drawings and on big whiteboards and stuff to try to help them map out their strategy, map out, you know, their sales funnel and their business plan, and make a draw a picture of who was their ideal client. That was one of my favorite things to do. I still do that now. And eventually a lot of my clients started saying, you know, this is really special. This is what, you know, a lot of people work with me on my marketing, but nobody else draws out these ideas the way you do. And that really helps me literally and figuratively see what the vision is, what I want to do, where everything fits and everything. So the more and more I did that, the more I realized that that was really my secret sauce. And then I discovered this whole industry that I didn't realize existed out there called graphic recording and graphic facilitation. And so I began to do that. So now I do a lot of what they call sketch noting at meetings and in seminars to help people, to help the speakers and the event planners sort of extend the ROI of their events, and also help attendees understand and remember what they've heard, because studies show that there's something called a forgetting curve, that after a couple of days, people forget pretty much everything they've heard at these big events, unless there's some other kind of like visual stimuli helps a lot to help them retain and be able to implement what they've learned. So long story short, which is a little too late for that, everything I do sort of combines some kind of storytelling, whether it's visual or verbal, to help companies and leaders get their message across, either to their teams or to their customers, in a way that is easily shareable, easily understandable. And then the last thing I'll say is that I finally did achieve my dream of being a professional cartoonist. I have had some cartoons in the New Yorker magazine, which is like a pretty big deal. It's kind of the Super Bowl
Bowl. Congratulations. It's awesome.
Yeah, I know. And that happened when I was in my mid-50s. So it's never too late to be the person you wanted to be when you were 5 years old, right? which is when I bought that book. And now I also really love to draw cartoons as part of marketing for some of my clients, especially ones in technology, that to help them tell their brand story and lighten up what they're talking about a little bit. And also I illustrate books. I just finished illustrating one called How to Talk to Your Enemies by Alicia Dunhams. And it's a wonderful book that, you know, that really takes a very practical approach to all the diversity, equity, and inclusion conversations everybody's been having, and how to handle these tough conversations between people of different cultures in a way that is respectful to everybody and doesn't require too much walking on eggshells, and how to apologize in a productive way, and all of that. So illustrations and cartoons can really help lighten up and reward the reader of a book like that. So I really enjoy using my work for those purposes too.
Nice. I love it. Well, I can only just imagine how valuable that would be for like a C-suite retreat, to have you there to be able to bring to light all of the concepts that they've had, because oftentimes these people think very linearly and everything looks like the content pages of a book, and it's like all of it is a bunch of words, and everybody else is going like, I don't even know what you mean by that, saying like, it means something to you because you were in the meeting, but it doesn't mean anything to me now.
Yeah, you are so right. Even the notes that you take for yourself, I'm sure you've had this experience. You're in a retreat or a meeting where you feel like there's something really significant being said, and you write it down, and then a month later you come across your notes and you go, I know I thought that was important, but I don't know why. I don't remember the context at all. And it's like when you wake up from a dream and you've had this, you discover the cure for cancer in your dream, and you thought it was so great. And then when you try to remember what it was, it's like, no, that's stupid. I mean, it seemed great in the dream, right? So when you've got someone like me there to help either facilitate or even just capture what's being said, it really, not only is it more engaging and fun during the experience, but after it's over, when people go back to quote unquote real life and they sort of forget what happened in that mountaintop experience, they can look at the visual that was created with their input during the event and go, oh right, I remember we talked about this, and then this happened, and that person, and they recall not only the content, but the emotion and the feeling and the inspiration of that experience, even if it was months ago. So that's a hugely valuable thing, especially when companies make such an investment of time and resources and money to put these things on. It's really kind of tragic when they kind of evaporate into the ether once it's over.
Right. Well, and I also find that there's something alluring about watching the idea take place and transcribe as well. So when I can see when you're having a leadership retreat, you come back and you've got everybody in the front line going, okay, and here's my idea, and you'll put it. That's it's like, well, I need to have the same framework. I need to start out in the little ways and climb the mountain with you and see it. And I can absolutely see that this would do that. But are you having a lot of fun have you incorporated technology and things in it yet so that you can replay how you drew it?
Oh, absolutely. I'm so glad you asked that. I mean, I wish the people who were hearing this only could see, but one of the things, first of all, during COVID, my business doing this kind of thing blew up because everybody got so bored sitting on Zoom meetings. In fact, one of my most popular New Yorker cartoons is a picture of hell where the devil is talking to his little assistant, and everybody down in the pit of hell is naked and sitting on a rock with a little laptop looking miserable. And the devil is saying to his assistant, oh, this is new. We placed them in an endless video conference with everyone they couldn't stand in real life. and that's how people were feeling. And I drew that cartoon only like 6 months into the pandemic, and now we're all living on Zoom meetings, right? So I got hired a lot to bring a little bit more life and fun into these Zoom meetings by live drawing what was going on. One of the things that made that special was, sometimes there's only one presenter, and that can get a little dull, and people drift off to their other tabs or their phone or something. So having a visual capture that's going on live in front of them helps keep them focused and in the room. But when there are multiple speakers, what I try really hard to do is make sure that everybody's voice is captured, that everybody can see that they were involved in this meeting, that they were heard and seen and valued, and their what they said was memorialized, so that they don't feel like, well, why did I even come? I'm wasting my time. But the great thing is that, back in the old days, and I know some people still do this, but I don't anymore. I'm sure you've been to live seminars where you've been in the room and there's been somebody over on the side with an easel drawing sketch notes on a physical board, and that's great. I can do that. I have done that, but because of COVID, I went fully digital, and now I won't go back even when I'm live in the room, because doing it digitally has the advantage of not only making it more shareable, but the software that I use, which is called Procreate, it's for the Apple iPad Pro, capture, if you can set it up to capture your pen strokes in sequence, so that I can play back, as soon as I'm finished, I can play back a video of that shows the whole drawing in fast motion being built. So it becomes a whole other product where you've got, maybe someone spoke for an hour, the meeting lasted an hour, in about a minute and a half, you can replay the entire meeting in sort of cartoon form. And I want to say animated. It looks animated. It's, you know what I mean? It's kind of basically just the drawing being redrawn only in fast motion. And you can either just play that by itself, or what I like to do is to add a little bit of music and maybe a little voiceover that basically tells the story of what happened in the meeting in a top line, high level kind of way that kind of goes along with the picture, so that anybody who was there will go, oh yeah, I remember that. Anybody who wasn't there can say, oh wow, I see pretty much the gist of what they talked about. And anybody who wants to go deeper can read the 50-page PowerPoint deck if they want to, but they have a general idea of what was discussed and the main takeaways that mattered. So after I do these kinds of things, whether it's at a retreat or a Zoom meeting, we have both the still sort of graphic that has everything in it all at once, and then also the video that plays out in sequence that makes it more of it's kind of a, this happened, then this person said this, then this happened, then that happened. So it becomes more of a story and less of just a static image. So
well, and I can also see them being able to reutilize it in explainer videos and things, and get a voiceover done and take snippets of it, and you can have your own personal characters for each company.
Oh yeah, I do that all the time. We do that all the time. And then the other thing is, a lot of times people will see this and say, gee, I wish I could do this too, or I wish I could never do this. So I do have some workshops that I run from time to time that teach people well, there's a couple of different ones. One is like, hey, if you want to learn to sketch note and do this at conferences, then here's I'm actually developing that one right now. But the one I do more often is really more for people who just want to learn to use visuals more in their work, or take visual notes for themselves, or whiteboard, in a more dynamic way at the office or something like that, in order to facilitate better communication between people who are working together, or to be able to show their ideas in a more engaging and graphic way to their boss or to the C-suite. I work with a lot of people who work in science and technology, and they are not what you would call the greatest communicators, but the people that they need support from and money from are not interested in all of the details of how they arrived at their technology. They just want to know what is this? How does it work? Why does it matter? Why should I give you money? And sometimes a drawing that they can do in real time in front of the person is a lot easier for them to explain what, all of those things, than if they handed them this big long thing that nobody wants to read. Right. So I do like to train people in how to do this. And everyone says, oh, I can't draw. I could barely draw a stick figure. But when they come out of these workshops, they're always surprised at how much they actually can do, how many stories they can tell with very simple drawings. And it's like realizing you knew a language that you didn't also know. It's like waking up and realizing, hey, I could speak French when I could never speak French. It's like everybody has this language, but you kind of forgot that you can speak it. So it's I really enjoy helping people learn how to draw for communication.
I love it. Well, and I also love that you can teach people to do it, because I can just, so many people who doodle during meetings, and it takes them away from the meeting, as opposed to having a hyper productive doodling, which serves so many more purposes.
Well, actually, that's really interesting that you say that, because yes, when I do this for meetings, and I'm hired to do it for meetings, it's because they want somebody to both engage people in the room and also create an artifact that will live after the meeting as a kind of a touchstone and reminder, and like have a roadmap for what people are supposed to do. Yeah. But what you just touched on is super important as well. When you take your own visual notes for yourself, even in your own notebook that no one else will ever see at the meeting, you have such a higher degree of recall and involvement, and also engagement during the meetings, that you're right, that kind of doodling keeps you focused. I never listen harder than I do when I'm doing this kind of thing. So that when I recap months later what happened in one of these things, people are amazed, like, how could you remember all that stuff? It was like a year ago. It's like, yeah, but I was listening so hard to be able to draw this stuff that I really, really took it in. And then I also have the picture to remind me what they said. So it really kind of carves in stone information that would normally just kind of disappear into nowhere after a while. So it is very practical, and it also uses all of the, I don't know how much people here know about. Most people know the different learning styles of visual, auditory, and kinesthetic, and there's nothing that combines all of these. Like, even if somebody's doing it for you, but if you're doing it yourself, it basically involves your body, because you're drawing, you're listening really hard, you're watching the person, you're looking at the picture, you're using all of those faculties at once. So it stands to reason that you're going to retain more of the information.
Oh, absolutely. And to me, it brings active learning to a whole new level. So when I was doing therapy, I write down everything everybody says, kind of verbatim, to the best of my ability. I happen to be able to write really fast because I did it all through high school and college. So, I know my notes, and I'm good with that. And being able to give a visual aspect to the writing. So it's not always the same. There's a little star here, there's an indent there, there's a something there. And the more unique I can make that, the more it makes that impact in my brain that I can remember. Or I'll be going back and going, oh, I remember this place. I had a pink underline like 7 times in there. That's the thing I want to go back to. But this takes it to a whole new level of being able to actively listen to your clients, recall what the data is years later. Like, this to me is what should be taught in schools. It should be taught to therapists. It should be taught to coaches. Like, anybody that has to actively listen to somebody, this kind of doodling on crack.
It's funny. It is, but it's funny you mentioned college, because now you remind me that the very first time I ever even did this was I was in college. I was at Brown University, and I took a class in I forget what it was called, but it was basically like the life and history of Mozart and classical music at that time and whatever, which I was very interested in. And as fast as I talk, this professor talked like way faster than I do, and he was giving all these facts and things and what about Mozart and Salzburg and Vienna and where did he go, and he went to Prague and then he went to here and he went there, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm never going to remember all this. And I started drawing little doodles of Mozart and his father dragging him to Prague when he was like 4 years old and dragging him back to Vienna, and then all of these things. And so I still have those notebooks, with and it's basically I had like signs pointing this way to Prague, this way to Salzburg, that kind of thing. And I laugh when I look at them now, but I realize now it was so that I could somehow make sense of all these facts and things. And this was before smartphones or anything where you could audio record your teacher during class. And so that was the first time I did it, and it really did help, because now I can look at those notebooks from 1981 and I can still remember a lot of information that maybe I wouldn't have picked. And the other thing you mentioned is about being a therapist or being a coach or somebody like that. I have had a lot of people on this, a lot of coaches take my workshop, partly because and I'm planning on maybe making a new version of this that's specifically for coaches and therapists, because when you visualize people's issues and things, especially when there's something maybe a little bit sensitive or challenging to talk about, and you use maybe a metaphor of some kind or something, and then you're both looking at it, in this very objective way. It's taking the person out of their subjective pain, and they're like, oh, I have this challenge. It's like climbing a mountain. It's like being stuck in a deep pit. I had somebody who said, "Oh, I'm up to my neck in horse shit," or something like that. And we drew little flowers coming out. Like, how can we turn this into fertilizer? And she was laughing, but she was at the beginning. She was really bummed out and upset and frustrated. But when we started drawing about it, it became more like a game, and it allowed her to have a bit more distance and perspective. And it's a very useful tool for a therapist or a coach to be able to objectively look at something together, instead of just talking back and forth to each other like a ping pong ball. You're standing on the same side of the net looking on the other side. And the other great thing is that if you're a coach and you have clients, and I was one of these clients who makes these pronouncements about what they're going to get done this week, and then you talk to them next week and they haven't done anything, drawing out a roadmap with them together while you're on the call, especially when you're doing things like Zoom, and basically sending it to them after the call. It's okay, here's a picture of what you said you were going to do. Then next week we can look at the picture and say, well, how far down this road did you get? Or how far up this mountain did you get? Or what did you do to surmount this obstacle? I'd be like, well, I'm still haven't gotten over that wall. Well, what could we do to get over the wall? How can we build a ladder? So you start to talk in these sort of metaphorical terms. And it's amazing how it gets people out of the feeling of this is too hard or I can't do it. It puts them in a more creative frame of mind, and also reminds them what they promised they would do. Because I know I'm like that. I'll get off, I make all of these pronouncements and I fully intend to do it. I get off the call, I get distracted, and then days go by and I go, oh my God, I promised I was going to do this thing and I didn't get it. I haven't even started yet. What's wrong with me? Some people just aren't very good at retaining information, or at everything seems really possible and easy when you talk about it, and then when you sit down to try to do it, it might seem harder, or it takes longer than you thought. So when you have a visual, not only a sort of a schematic and sketch, but also a reminder, sort of a prompt that says, hey, here's the basically the map that says what you were going to do this week, it can be a really helpful tool.
Absolutely. Well, and when I used to do therapy, one of the things I got people to do was to write down their problems, because it does a few things. One is it takes a three-dimensional problem, if you want to put it that way, this ball of emotion, and you have to make it linear. The pen has to follow a straight line. So it makes it more simplistic to be able to deal with it, and you have it on the page. Now the page owns it, and you're more objective to it, and you can handle it. Right. But if it's an image, it's even better, because now you can see that little pile of poop that you've been dealing with, and then what do you want to do with it, and how do you want the flowers to grow on it? Loving the visual for that, because you can then morph it into something else with the art of pen and multiple colors.
Yeah, you can make it mean something else. But the thing I want to make sure that everybody understands is you do not have to be a great artist to do this. We're talking about very simple. I mean, anybody who
Lines.
can see what I'm doing, or if you put in any of my drawings in the show notes, they may say, well, I could never do that because I'm not an artist. It's like the kind of stuff that we're talking about is really chicken scratches if they have to be, because it's all about what they mean. If it's meaningful to you, that then it's fulfilled its purpose. It's not meant to hang in a museum.
Right.
I say it's not about art, it's about the articulation of ideas, and it's about making meaning for yourself, for other people, for your clients. And when people can look at that pile of poop, we're going to be talking about pile of poop forever
We're
now.
talking about
Yeah,
I'm 12 in my
what does
mind.
this mean? What does this represent? Oh, it's all of these problems that I feel like I'm buried in. Well, it's like, well, let's talk about those problems and what constitutes this pile. One of my favorite ones to use is the iceberg, which is anybody could draw an iceberg. It's just a blob of any shape with like a little water line that's only weighed just a little bit. So only the little part of it shows all over the top of the water line. And I use that all the time with people and with companies. It's like, here's the problem at the top that we see. The problem that we see is that I'm having this issue at work and my people aren't, there has all this conflict, blah, blah, blah. But under the waterline is what are all the reasons that's happening? What do you think is contributing to that people don't really see? Well, there's all this conflict about who gets to work from home and who doesn't. And there's all of this, I'm making this up off the top of my head. And then you can look at all those different problems. And sometimes I'll even import this drawing into something like Miro or Mural or Google Jamboard, which is where you can put these sticky notes on and everybody can contribute. And so you have a bunch of sticky notes under the iceberg, under the water on the iceberg, saying here are all the different problems that are underlying that no one really sees, that are contributing to the problem that we do see that's out there in the physical world. And then we can look at all of those and say, well, which of those problems do you think if we solved it would have the greatest impact? Or you can put it on an effort impact scale where it's like, which would have the most impact for the least effort, or that we could take care of, or we could knock out the fastest. And then it's easy. Most of the time it's obvious which one that is. It's like, well, let's, the other problems are important too, but let's tackle this one. Let's talk about that. And just having it visually where people can look at it and go, okay, now how might we solve that problem? And you take kind of a design thinking approach where now people are brainstorming about, how might we mitigate this issue? And it just is a great way of collaborating. So it's not so much about the drawing, is it about the metaphor or the framework that you're getting people to basically agree to? Okay, we're all going to agree. It's like algebra. Let this iceberg represent our workplace or our issue. Okay, we all agree on that. And here we all agree that this is the problem we all see is the biggest problem on top of the iceberg, but here are all the reasons why. So
absolutely. So if you find yourself thinking to yourself right now, I can't draw, I can't do that, well, go and talk to Lisa and take the course. Exactly. And she'll show you how to turn chicken scratches into meaningful moments, and that's all good.
Exactly.
And if you're really stuck, just get her to draw the picture.
Yeah, I'm happy to come in and do that. But if anybody is interested, I don't have a workshop at the time of this recording. There isn't anything on the schedule right now, but if you are interested in hearing about that sort of thing, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. If you look for Lisa Rothstein, brand storyteller on LinkedIn, you will find me there. Or you can go to drawingoutyourgenius.com, and there will probably be some sort of a form on there where you can sign up to get notified next time I do these workshops and things. And I love to connect with people around this type of work.
I love it. So we will, of course, have all of your links in the show notes. So peeps, if you're interested, go down, scroll down, click on the link, of course, open it up in a new browser because we're not done yet. So Lisa, I get to ask you at this point, at what point in life did you know that you were especially kind of crazy enough to think that you could become an entrepreneur?
I kind of backed into it. I never really meant to become an entrepreneur. I was in an advertising agency for years and years. And then after I came back to the United States, after all those years in Europe, I noticed that so many people needed help now that they were starting their own businesses online. So many people needed help explaining what they did to other people. And so little by little, without really meaning to, I just started getting involved with helping those folks do that. And I just kind of turned around and noticed, hey, I have my business. So actually, there was a time when I did this way before I even thought I was ever going to have this kind of a job. When I was in New York as in between college, I needed a summer job, and I was too young to work in a bar that sold alcohol, and I couldn't type worth a damn. So my parents, to their credit, allowed me to become a street performer in New York City. I had seen somebody in San Francisco when I was a little girl who had done something called a human jukebox, where he stood on Fisherman's Wharf with a trumpet and with a kind of a box over his head, and then if you paid him money, he would open up the box and play his trumpet. And I thought when I was 10, that's what I want to be when I grow up. And then when I was 16, and my parents said, you have to go get a summer job after, between college years in college. It's like, well, why don't I do that human jukebox thing, but I'll just do it my own way in New York. And they were like, okay. So we went and found a refrigerator box like lying on the street somewhere that somebody had just thrown away. And my father and I kind of jury rigged it into this contraption that I would just fold up and bring it to Manhattan every day and stand in Central Park or on the corner of 53rd Street and Fifth Avenue. And I would stand inside and with these little doors, and people would push a button, and I'd open up the doors and I had a recorder, play a song on my recorder. And then I did that for like 4 or 5 years, every summer, and made a few $1,000s every summer, all in quarters. And that was my big introduction to entrepreneurship. And every year I iterated a little bit. I noticed that people liked it. I started adding costume changes. So if you asked for like Tomorrow from Annie, I had a hat that was made out of, I was like a shower cap covered with cotton balls that I'd spray painted orange that I put on my head when I was playing Tomorrow. And, things like that. So like every year there was a little bit of an extra. I held signs out the top so that people would know there was somebody inside. And people would say, sometimes I would get a heckler and they would say, oh, why don't you get a real job? And it would really hurt my feelings. So I would have a sign that I would hold out the top and whatever political convention was in town, I would say, for better clowns, attend the Republican National Convention, or for better clowns, attend the Democratic National Convention, or something like that. And people would I would always get a laugh, and the heckler would just stomp off and all grumpy and whatever. So, I mean, I had to learn to see what the audience liked and wanted. And so here I am, in a way, I'm back in my own human jukebox doing an entrepreneurial thing again. But after doing that, I ended up in the ad business for 2.5 decades. So it was a big difference, making your own hours. And then for the next part of my life, the company owned me, pretty much told me where to go, where to be every minute. So it's nice to have the freedom again to basically make my own choices.
I love it. What a great story. That is awesome. Lisa, you've been absolutely awesome. Any last words for our peeps?
No, except that if you think you can't draw to save your life, you can't draw your way out of a wet paper bag, or because your parents told you, your teachers told you, or your brother, your sister's the artist in the family, or anything like that. I'm here to tell you that that's not true, and that you can really stand out and make a big impression at your office, if you work in an office, or with your clients, if you'll just be a little brave and learn to communicate in pictures just a little bit, so that people can really get literally on the same page with you and understand on a whole deeper way what you're saying. And when you create a picture together, there's really nothing like it in terms of co-ownership and commitment and memory and all of that. So I really encourage you to try it.
Love it. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it immensely, and I know how valuable it is.
Thank you.
Awesome. Peeps, this is Michelle Nedelec. Thank you for being here with us today. Be sure to subscribe to the show and share it with your friends. We love helping entrepreneurs grow.
Are you running a business over 7 figures but still struggling with technology headaches? Pay attention. You do not want to miss this offer. This podcast episode is brought to you by Awareness Strategies, who is offering a custom-built digital adoption roadmap for anyone running a business over 7 figures who's wanting to grow their business in the next 5 years. And it's not just a roadmap. They offer full implementation as well, if that scares the out of you. Check out awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap for more details today. The link's in the show's notes. Don't regret not doing this. Do it now. That's awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap.